Mike Williams sat outside his wife's office at 6:30 p.m. because today was the day he planned to end the sham of a marriage he and his wife called a relationship. Some husbands don't notice the signs over time, but Mike did. He noticed it and was ready to end it. Mike estimated that this had been going on for about 6 weeks. It was then that he first noticed his wife, Lisa, wearing green high-heeled shoes to work. She hated wearing heels. The only times she tolerated them were for weddings or special occasions and in the bedroom on certain occasions. Lisa wore green heels and black stockings with a lacy bra and thong. Mike loved seeing her in heels and thought they had a wonderful love life, but she never wore them to work. He asked her about it. "Why are you wearing heels, honey?" "Is something happening today?" he asked. "I have a meeting with my boss. I just want to look professional," she replied without looking back. Mike thought, maybe like a professional streetwalker, but remained silent. Over time, her late nights became more frequent, 2 to 3 hours several days a week. Once the girls' nights out started, he realized what was really going on. She hated clubs, salons, and bars. Her idea of going out was dinner or coffee. She didn't drink a drop and looked down on those who did. He followed her to her 4th girls' night out, and she went to a house in Fairview. He knew this house. He had been there several times for parties. It was the home of her boss, Richard Morton. Mike waited an hour, and when he was sure this was her plan and not just a stop along the way, he let the air out of all 4 of her tires and drove home. She didn't mention the tires when she got home that night or over the weekend, but he heard her tell their son, Johnny, "Would you believe someone let the air out of my tires last night?" "No way, Mom." "Is this true?" Johnny asked. "Yeah, thank God they didn't cut them. They just released the air. I was able to use that air pump thing your dad makes me keep in the trunk." "Wow, where have you been?" "Just at a dance club with my friends." "You should probably avoid this in the future." Lisa grinned and said, "Sure, baby." Mike met with a lawyer and began the divorce process. That's why he was sitting in the car not far from her office. She was supposed to be served that same evening. He lamented his 19 years of marriage, but overall they had been good. They produced his 15-year-old son Johnny, who was the apple of his eye and a daddy's boy. He met Lisa when he needed a lawyer for a contract dispute with his employer. She was then a receptionist who wanted to become a paralegal. He thought she was great and asked her out. They dated happily for 3 years before he proposed, and he thought they were happy throughout their marriage, right up until she started working for Richard Morton. He drove a truck and had long hours at times, but they spent as much time together as possible. The whole family went on trips as Johnny's schedule allowed. He always had either sports or some other time-consuming activity. Mike and Lisa sometimes traveled to Door County, Wisconsin, to visit wineries or to Madison to shop and relax without Johnny when he was old enough. The shock of Lisa's betrayal cut him deeply. She became more and more distant from him, but he never suspected that she was cheating until he noticed the heels. From there, it was all downhill. Her attitude was bad and getting worse. He remembered the conversation the night he followed her. "Darling, why don't we have dinner and go to the movies today? I have a rare day off on Thursday, and I want to spend some time with you," he said. "You know that now I meet the girls on Thursdays. They rely on me to be their designated driver. Let them get by for one night. With the extra hours you work and those nights you spend with the girls, I barely see you." Well, if you had a real job that didn't force you to drive at all hours of the day and night, you could see me more often. But you don't, and I had to suffer through it for 2 decades. Deal with it. See you later. She didn't even say goodbye when she walked out the door. He was speechless. He followed her into the garage and watched her drive out. He grabbed the keys and hurried after her. There was only one exit from their area, and to get to the exit from their house, you had to go through a whole maze of streets. He was able to catch up with her as she turned onto Main Street and followed her to Richard's house. He avoided her for the rest of that weekend and decided to find a lawyer on Monday. He wasn't about to go scorched earth. He just wanted their marriage to end peacefully. He felt through her words and actions that she didn't want him anymore, so why hold on to the slippery rope? She could have her boss without a fight on his part. That's how he felt. He told his son about it that Monday. She's cheating on me, buddy. You may not have noticed a difference in the last couple of months, but I do. She has sex with her boss. No way, Dad. I don't believe it. I followed her to his house. She said she was going out with friends, but that's not true. She went straight to her boss's house, but her tires were ruined at the club. No, son, I did it. And I did it outside her boyfriend's house. When I saw that she wasn't going to the club, I just can't believe it, Dad. Me too, but it's true. His son sat next to him in the car, waiting for the fireworks to inevitably start. Are you really sure, Dad? No chance? No, son, everything is over. She broke my trust and tore out my heart. I cannot tolerate such betrayal. What if she felt like she had a reason to do it? Buddy, there is no reason to justify a long affair. What if she got drunk and it was just one time? Maybe if she had been raped, of course it would be different. No, she chose this path. She betrayed my trust. Trust is the most important thing you can have with someone. You can never love someone you can't trust. I could never love someone who betrayed me like that. Our marriage fell apart. Johnny looked out the window and saw two men approaching the car. What an idiot, Lisa Williams said, looking out the window of her law office, having sex with Richard. Glad that their office had good old tinted windows on one side. I can't believe it. He thought he'd get to me first. There was no lovemaking there. It was bestial in every way. It took Richard 8 months to attract Lisa, and he was grooming her to replace his wife, who had just received a final divorce decree ending their 21-year marriage. He was tired of his ex-wife's whining and moaning about everything. He was tired of her weight gain. He was tired of her lack of sexual desire. He was embarrassed to be seen with her, and when his twins left for college, he broke free. Lisa was the same age as his wife, but more elegant. She had the toned body of a 35-year-old and was amazingly beautiful. Richard had already improved her wardrobe, and she was going to be a great boss's wife. A knock on the window made Mike jump. "Are you Michael Williams?" Rolling down the window, he said, "Yes, you've been served. Please read the documents carefully. There is a restraining order that requires you to stay 100 yards away from Lisa Williams, Jonathan Williams, and your family residence." What? An injunction from Johnny? Johnny snatched the envelope from his hands and read the headline about the divorce. She found a restraining order and handed it to him. "What the hell?" he shouted. "Oh, God, no," Johnny moaned. "Dad, I swear I didn't know. What are you talking about?" She handed him the rest of the papers. The documentation laid out several allegations: spousal violence, child abuse, sexual abuse of a minor. "Johnny, why? Dad, I swear I had nothing to do with this. This is a lie or a mistake. Wait, how did she know I'd be here right now?" "That's because I told her," his daughter said. These words broke his heart. "When you told me she was cheating on you, I came face to face with her. She told me she only did it because she had an investigator's report that said you cheated on her. You can't be serious, can you? Have you seen the report?" "No." "You believed her and not me? Did you let her set me up?" "Buddy, why? I love you so much. Why did you do this to me? I asked you not to say anything. I swear, Dad, I didn't know about the restraining order. This abuse is crap. I swear I didn't say anything like that to anyone." He cried quietly, not paying attention to her pleas. A moment later, he said, "You have to leave now, Johnny. I can't and don't want to be within 100 yards of you anymore," he said quietly. "Dad, no!" she screamed. "Go, or I might get arrested on top of all this. The sheriff is still here watching me." Reading further, he said, "Oh my God, they also froze all my accounts. Crap, what should I do now? Congratulations to you both, you destroyed me. I can't even afford to fight her powerful law firm with all these bogus claims. I will forever fight in court." "Oh God, no, I'll fix everything, Dad," Johnny said, getting out of the car and heading toward the office building. Richard and Lisa finished and sighed contentedly. "It was great, darling," she said. "I just wish I had binoculars so I could see his face." Richard was just fastening his belt, and Lisa was smoothing out her dress when Johnny ran into the office screaming, "You're a liar! Child abuse, sexual violence, what is wrong with you?" Lisa smirked. "I had to strike first. Now he cannot enter the house or access our money for some time. I have the upper hand over him. He didn't do it. I don't know this for sure." "You guys are really close," Lisa said with a grin. Johnny approached her and asked, "He didn't cheat, did he?" Of course not. Who needs it? She said with a laugh. You're a monster, Johnny said, and punched her mother in the face with all her might. Lisa collapsed to the ground in shock and pain. Richard laughed and said, Nice shot, girl. Johnny froze, then looked around. She saw bookcases, shelves, and a dirty desk. She grimaced in disgust, looked at Richard, and swept everything off the table. Then Johnny looked at him and calmly said, You'd better never cross paths with me again, idiot. I can and will hurt you, and she left. Johnny, wait! Damn it! Lisa screamed. Richard said, That little brat will pay for this. On her way out, Johnny passed a man with an envelope in his hand who asked her, Are you Lisa Williams? There she is, she said, and rushed away. Both Lisa and Richard laughed at the fact that she was served with Mike's divorce petition. Johnny desperately tried to talk to her father out of fear. He knew he couldn't talk to her, so he didn't answer and cried every time he saw her call. He was afraid that Lisa would find out and send the police after him for violating the restraining order. Lisa had already alienated him from all their friends, and only his parents and brother believed in his innocence. His sister-in-law kept him away from his niece and nephew just in case it was true. This nearly ended her marriage to his brother before George forced Johnny to tell her the truth. He couldn't understand what he had done to deserve such hatred from Lisa and betrayal from his daughter. Even if she didn't know about the abuse charge, she still told her mother that he knew about her affair and when she would be served. She even lied and said she wanted to be with him to support him when he served Lisa. But she knew he would be served and said nothing. Johnny tried to find someone to help her dad. She found a copy of her mother's divorce papers and saw that the lawyer worked in her mother's office, so it was impossible to go to him. She called Grandpa George. George was Mike's father, and she hoped he could help. What do you need, young lady? He asked. Grandfather, we must help Dad. I don't know who to turn to for help. He doesn't answer my calls. I can't believe what you did to your father, Johnny. What were you thinking while helping your mother? Grandfather, this is all a lie. I didn't do anything. It's all my mom and her idiot lawyer guy. Watch your tongue, girl. I'm sorry, Grandpa. I swear I didn't blame him for any of this, and I had no idea that when I confronted her, she would explode like that. Fine, I'll see what I can do. Grandfather, is he there? Can I talk to him? He cannot have any contact with you until this order is lifted. Every time you call him, he starts crying because of what happened. He's afraid your mother will find out he talked to you and turn him into the police. His lawyer said a court date has been set for a hearing in the case, but nothing can be done until then. Johnny, crying bitter tears, said, Grandpa, tell him that I love him and miss him. If I see him, I will do it. Johnny hung up and cried for several minutes. When she finally calmed down, she went into her mother's room, started taking her underwear out of her drawers and her new clothes out of her closet, and threw them down the stairs. She picked up a large pile of clothes, carried them out the front door, and threw them in the middle of the lawn. She laughed when she saw that some of the outfits were so new that they still had tags on them. Screw you, Mom, she said out loud, and went into the barn to get lighter fluid. She poured the entire can onto her clothes and used matches to light it. She noticed that the time was getting closer to when her mother would return home. Johnny smiled as an idea came to her mind. Pulling into the driveway, Lisa saw Johnny sitting on a lawn chair in the front yard, roasting marshmallows over a pile of her burning clothes. She screamed and ran out of the car, screaming at Johnny, "What the hell are you doing? Have you gone crazy?" "No, Mom, I'm completely out of my mind. I decided to make you pay for the fact that my dad can't talk to me. Every day that passes until I talk to him, I'm going to destroy a few more of your things. You better retract this crap abuse claim ASAP, or more of your stuff will go up in flames. And if you touch me, I will report your abuse to the authorities and also tell them that your boyfriend asked me to show him my panties." Lisa gasped and stammered, "Johnny, a court date has been set for Monday. The restraining order will not be renewed. It was only for a short time. Don't worry, Mom. Until I talk to him, things will turn into smoke." "Crap," Lisa shouted, entering the house. She called Mike, but of course he didn't answer and deleted the message without listening to it. Moments later, a fire truck and a police car arrived. One of the neighbors reported the fire. A policeman and one of the firefighters approached Johnny. "What does all this mean, young lady?" asked the officer. My mother wanted to get rid of the clothes she had grown out of. She told me to burn them, Johnny said. You can't light a fire in the front yard. Is your mother home? He asked. Yes, sir. I'll put it out with a hose if you want. The fireman spoke and asked, Did you use anything to light it, or did you just set the clothes on fire? A whole can of lighter fluid, she said proudly. There's no water. We have some sand. I'll fill it up, the fireman said. While the fireman was dealing with the fire, the policeman rang the doorbell. Lisa opened the door ready to attack her daughter, but realized it was the police. Well, put out the fire. It's no big deal, officer, Lisa said before he could speak. The firefighters are doing it now, Mom. Did you know it's against city ordinance to have an uncontrolled fire in your yard? No, I didn't know, she said through clenched teeth. Here's your fine. You just need to pay. No court appearance is required. Next time, ma'am, just give your unwanted clothes to Goodwill. Less fortunate people could use them. She closed the door. Lisa's lawyer appeared before a judge for a restraining order hearing next Monday. He did not attempt to renew it, knowing that it was received falsely. It served its purpose, bought time, and ruined Mike's reputation. Mike's lawyer filed a motion to charge Lisa with perjury. The judge said without conclusive evidence that the order was filed under false pretenses, there was no perjury. You may be opening this can of worms in your divorce counterclaim, but you know there is no prospect of a claim. The fact that the restraining order was lifted was of little comfort to Mike, who was in a terrible state of depression. His life was falling apart because he couldn't cope with false accusations, frozen assets, his wife's betrayal, and what he felt was the worst part of it all, his daughter's betrayal. He barely made ends meet. He took time off from work, drank too much, and was miserable. He went to his house in the afternoon when he knew Lisa and Johnny wouldn't be there. He discovered that she had changed the locks but tried opening the garage door and it worked. He found all his things in the garage. There were several boxes and his clothes were in garbage bags. He noticed that she left him the wedding album and all the photographs of the happy family that used to be hung throughout the house. He kept in touch with his parents and brother, but the relationship was strained due to his problems. His parents begged him to see a psychiatrist, but he refused. He felt like he didn't need a psychiatrist to tell him his life sucked, and there was nothing he could do about it. Lisa's law firm waged a campaign of war without mercy. They even told his employer about the restraining order and abuse allegations, and Mike was fired for that reason. There was a moral clause in his contract. If he had been in a better state of mind, he would have known that he could fight this and most likely win, but at that moment, he simply could not do anything. Nobody knew where Mike lived. He communicated with his family only by telephone. The only time anyone saw him was when he had a mandatory court appearance for his divorce and refused to talk to anyone other than his lawyer and the judge. Johnny tried to talk to him on such occasions and cried every time he passed her without looking at her. She thought he looked like the Walking Dead. Lisa was happy with how things were going. She began to resent Mike months before Richard turned her against him, and over the course of her seduction, she almost came to hate Mike. After months of legal wrangling, the divorce was declared final. Mike got his share of the assets back. His lawyer was able to get the house sold, and he kept his truck. He couldn't find a job because of false rumors circulating around town that he was abusing his daughter. No one cared that he was not accused of anything. He decided to move to Chicago, where he found work in his field as a truck driver. He put all his belongings in the back of the pickup and was saying goodbye to his parents when Johnny pulled up. "Dad, I'm so sorry. None of this should have happened," she said, running up to hug him. He cried and didn't hug her back. "You chose your mother over me without any evidence because you went to her the first domino fell. I am a simple driver, and I had to have the element of surprise in front of the law firm where she works. I had to file first so she couldn't retaliate. Now you understand why. Daddy, I didn't know. I'm sorry. I'm leaving now. This false accusation of child molestation just won't go away. Once you're accused of something like that, it's a stink you just can't wash off. Someday your mother and her lover will pay for this. Goodbye, Jonathan. I loved you more than my own life. I did everything I could to give you a good life. I just hope you don't grow up like your mother." She burst into tears as her grandmother hugged her. This gave him the opportunity to get into the truck and drive away. "Lisa, will you marry me?" Richard asked the day the divorce was final. "Yes, Richard." She began to cry and jumped up to hug him, causing a small scene in the restaurant. "Let's go to your house and celebrate," she said when he paid the bill. She loved his big house and couldn't wait to move in and remodel it when she got rid of the tacky furniture and curtains that his ex-wife had chosen. It was imperative that their bedroom set should be the first thing to buy. Richard laughed as they walked out and saw his ex-wife having dinner with her parents. His ex-wife Carol was disgusted with him and his latest mistress. She spat at him as they passed by, and he didn't even pay attention to it. Mike walked into the truck warehouse and saw his colleague Lou standing in the doorway. "Mike, what's the matter, dude? You look like someone ruined your oatmeal. Divorce today final." "Ah, well, after what that bitch did to you, you should have some fun today. It's not her. It's my daughter. She took that bitch's side and I just can't deal with it. She calls me and emails me, but I just can't bring myself to talk to her. Maybe I should see a psychiatrist." "Maybe you should let off some steam," a voice said from behind them. "Hello, Mariana." "That's not a bad idea," Lou said. "Ha! Who needs my dried-out old ass?" said Mike. Mariana leaned over and whispered, "I do," and ran her tongue along his earlobe. She walked away, and the men shook their heads at her as she walked away from them. "Go for it, Mike. She's a wonderful girl." "What the hell, why not?" Mike answered. "This is my boyfriend now. Let's hit the road." On their first date, Mike took Mariana to dinner and a movie. After the film, they went to a diner for coffee and cake. "Mike, you need to keep your chin up. You're a good guy who's down on his luck. Everything will work out in the end," she said. "Maybe, Mariana. For a long time, I could not understand what I did wrong. I didn't understand why she attacked me so much during the divorce. For heaven's sake, it's terrible. But it's all over now," she said, grabbing his hand. "Look forward, not behind. I'll make it worth your time." He smiled and squeezed her hand. "Let's get out of here, shall we?" Mariana pulled Mike in for a kiss as she opened the front door. "Do you want to look at my bedroom?" "I wish I could." She took his hand and led him to her bedroom. Moonlight streamed through the window, giving the room a soothing bluish tint. They kissed, intertwining their tongues, and slowly undressed each other. There was nothing crazy about it. They were going to enjoy every moment. She lay down on the bed and he knelt on the floor. "Well, her loss is my gain, and I plan to take advantage of that advantage often." He kissed her and said, "Anytime, dear, anytime." A week later, a man dressed all in black crept up to the back door of a large house in an upscale part of town. Prepared to have to break in, he smiled when he found the door unlocked. Slowly making his way through the house, hoping the floorboards wouldn't creak, he found the room he was looking for. The room was perfectly equipped for what he needed, and he knew it because of the Facebook photo of his target sitting at his desk. This arrogant man had this photo on his screensaver. The closet was behind and to the right of the desk, and the room was fairly dimly lit, only by a desk lamp. The closet door was closed, but he could still see the room fairly well. He opened the door behind the counter and waited. The only cause for concern was that the target approached the closet before sitting down at the table. It would make things even more confusing, but the job would still get done, and his perfect alibi would keep him safe anyway. Richard Morton walked into his home office and looked at the computer monitor that sat at an angle on his desk. His back was completely turned towards the cabinet behind him. The uninvited guest slowly opened the closet door and carefully slipped out. Richard heard the noise and looked up. The gun was pressed to his head and the trigger was pulled. The pistol was placed in his hand, a note was left on the table, and the shooter quickly walked out the door. "Price paid in full," was all the note said. Lisa returned home from the store and walked through Richard's office door to show him the new bedding she had bought. She screamed when she saw the body limp in the chair. She took her cell phone out of her purse, called 911, and reported the shooting. She looked at him and saw a gun in his hand and a note on the table. She didn't touch it but read what it said and received a message. "No, Mike, no!" she screamed. "What have you done?" Detective Chris Jordan received a call and headed to the Mortons' home. When he arrived, he saw a woman crying in the living room and crime scene investigators moving in and out of the office. He scanned the scene and looked at the new set of golf clubs in the corner of the room. "Good clubs, dear ones," he thought, and continued to look around. He looked at the body and saw the gun still clutched in the victim's right hand. He asked one of the officers who arrived first, "What do we have at the moment?" An obvious shot to himself in the head. Victim: lawyer Richard Morton, homeowner. The bride is Lisa Williams. She found the body and called 911. Is there a note? Yes, sir. It is typed on a computer and is not signed. It's just one sentence, that's all. He handed him a plastic bag with the note. Detective Jordan frowned and asked, "Is the bride that blonde?" "Yes, sir." "Ma'am, do you have any idea what the note means?" Detective Jordan asked Lisa. "Yes, that means it wasn't suicide. My ex-husband killed him. Richard hates guns. He didn't have such a gun." "Why do you think your ex did this?" "Because he felt Richard took me away from him." "Did he really? Did you date the deceased while you were married?" Lowering her eyes in embarrassment, she said, "Yes." "Could there have been anyone else who might have wanted him dead?" "He was a lawyer, right?" "I think his ex-wife was very angry about being left. He practiced corporate law civil clients who have almost never been in a courtroom." "Okay, ma'am, where were you this evening?" "Shopping." "You don't think I did it, do you? I don't even know if it was suicide. Could you give me the receipts for your purchases, please?" "Okay, detective." On a sunny Sunday afternoon, Detective Jordan visited Mike Williams. "Mr. Williams, I'm Detective Jordan. I need to ask you a few questions, please." "Of course, detective. How are you?" "Where were you last night around 8 p.m.? At work?" "I was driving a rig through Springfield. I arrived at the station at 9:30. You could check the logs. Where did you come from?" "Rockford." "What's happened?" "Richard Morton was shot dead last night in an apparent suicide." "Apparent?" "Let's just say there are some inconsistencies." "Fine. Well, I couldn't finish it from Rockford." "No, sir. If I have any more questions, I'd like to call if that's okay." "Of course. I will give you my new mobile number." The detective left and was unhappy that he had to drive to the northwest side of Chicago to talk to Mike and then across town to the truck pool to check the alibi. He thought a little more about what was bothering him about the suicide. Why would a left-handed person shoot himself with his right hand? Why did he type the note? Why were there so few gunshot marks on his hand? But they were present and stated that the victim fired a gun. But it was an oddity. After the detective left, Mike sat down at his kitchen table when Lou spoke. "What does this all mean, Mike?" Mike laughed and said, "Would you believe that my ex-wife's fiancé committed suicide?" "No way. Yeah, I hope my alibi checks out." They laughed and clinked beer bottles on toast. Lisa sat in the front row at the funeral, mourning the man who so easily took her away from her wonderful husband. Tears flowed for the man who convinced her to go on a nuclear attack and kill a good man so that she could change. She was madly in love with her truck driver husband until she was transferred to work for Richard. Richard targeted her and almost immediately began to wear her down, making comments about truck drivers, flippant comments about him when he was on a trip. It was too easy for Richard. He planted a seed that she had neglected because of Mike's long days and sometimes nights on the road, and it grew. She couldn't decide whether she was crying because of the loss of her fiancé or because of the loss of her husband and the breakdown of her relationship with her son. It was all a waste of time. She didn't hear anything and wouldn't care if the room was buzzing around her. She didn't see the looks Richard's ex-wife and his daughters were giving her. They blamed her for his death. "You could come to the funeral and pay your respects," Lisa said, approaching her son who was home for the weekend from college. Johnny looked at her intently and said, "How dare you tell me that I should respect the man who destroyed my father? Screw you. I shouldn't even call that piece of crap a man." She slammed the door as she left the house and took the long drive back to college in Madison, Wisconsin. Detective Jordan was sitting in a meeting with his boss discussing the lack of progress in the case. All the suspects' alibis have been verified. Mike Williams' truck tracker shows he made no stops on his way from Rockford to Chicago, and the timing of the trip was correct. The warehouse team identified him as the driver. Lisa Williams' receipts and surveillance cameras place her at Macy's Victoria's Secret and Starbucks in the medical examiner's window at the time of death. Morton's ex-wife and her daughters had dinner with her parents, brother, and sister-in-law in honor of her birthday, said Jordan. Was it her ex's birthday? The commander asked him. No, they were just celebrating it. Heck, I even checked on William's son, and he was at college over 3 hours away in Wisconsin. There's no chance that it was suicide, the commander asked him. It's possible. It just seems to me that it's not true. Well, with no suspects, no motive, and no concrete evidence that it was even a murder, let's close it as a suicide. Jordan nodded and left the room upset. 6 months later, Lisa invited Jason Brown to dinner. It was their third date, and Lisa got him into bed. After a passionate night, Jason went home. He opened a bottle of beer before going to bed and sat down to check his email. As he sat at the kitchen table, a gun was pointed at his head and fired. They put a gun in his hand and left a note. The price has been paid in full. Detective Jordan walked through the apartment and into the kitchen. Before he could speak, he was handed a suicide note. Well, damn. It looks like I was right about something else. Now I just need to find out who the hell did this, he told the officer. Any fingerprints, Mark? He asked the technician. Yes, but if I had to guess right now, I would say that they are the victims. Are there any witnesses? Who called the police? Jordan asked. A neighbor heard the shot and called 911. No one saw anyone enter or leave. Of course not. How did they get here? No broken locks or windows. It looks like a balcony to me. The sliding door was not locked. The victim probably wasn't worried about this since he was on the second floor. Although it wouldn't be that difficult to climb up, I would say that anyone of fairly average height could jump, reach the bottom, and pull themselves up. Average height for a man or a woman? Average man, tall woman. Where is this guy's phone number? Jordan asked. Packed here. Jordan used his gloved hands to find the last call on his phone. Just had to check. The last call was made to Lisa. I'll be shocked if she's not Lisa Williams. After the usual condolences and pleasantries, the detective got to work. Miss Williams, why do your lovers seem to want to commit suicide? Detective Jordan asked. It must be Mike. He is the one punishing me. Where were you last night, ma'am? At home all night? I have an alarm system that will confirm this. Tell me about the alarm system. When it's on, it detects doors and windows opening. I turned it on when Jason left last night, and I turned it off this morning when you arrived, she said through tears. Did you turn it off at any time last night? No, Johnny is at college, so it was on all night. It's easy enough to check. So your theory is that your ex-husband is behind these apparent suicides? Yes, who else could it be? When was the last time you talked to your husband until the divorce? Did you see him following you, or did he contact you? No. Then how could he know your last lover? I don't know, but it must be him. Fine, that's all I have at the moment. Please stay close, he said, turning to leave. Oh, one more question. How tall are you? 5'9" or so, 5'10". Why do you need this? Just curious. Once again, my condolences for your loss. Is it the same note? The chief asked when Jordan returned to the police station. Yes, sir, Detective Jordan said. Inform me daily about your progress. This is too much for a coincidence. The woman's alibi is reliable. I'll see if I can ruin it, but we'll see. I'm going to see her ex-husband now, the detective said cautiously. Then let me know what you get. As Detective Jordan left, he had a bad feeling that all of the prime suspects' alibis would be as reliable as the last time. Mike and Mariana were cozy on his couch watching Jack Ryan on Prime when the doorbell rang. Detective Jordan, what can I do for you today? Mike asked, gesturing for him to come in. Sir, where were you last night at 1:30 a.m.? On the way back from Detroit. I arrived at 2:30. What happened this time? Do you know Jason Brown? I don't think that's true. He met with your ex-wife. Looks like he shot himself last night. No way. Looks like it, huh? Maybe she's a serial killer, a black widow or something like that? Maybe. Thank you. If I need anything else, I will contact you. Mike laughed as he closed the door. What was all that, baby? Asked Mariana. It looks like another of my ex-wife's boyfriends has died. Oh, God, she breathed, raising her hand to her mouth. Yeah, thank God I have an alibi. I hope whoever kills these guys keeps choosing times when I'm on the road." Mike's cell phone rang. He looked and saw it was Johnny, so he ignored it. Mariana frowned and said, "Will she never have a chance? I don't understand why you need this. She misses you." She turned to me and we talked. "What?" he shouted, standing up. "Relax, honey," she said, pulling him back down. "I'm not going to interfere. It's your decision, and you have to live with it. She's still your friend on Facebook. She saw me tag you at the sushi place I forced you to go to with me last month. She follows your Facebook just like you follow hers. She texted me right away just to see how you were and to tell me she was happy that you had found someone you were happy with. She told me she will never stop trying to talk to you. She calls me once a week or so just to chat. She likes to hear where you've gone and where you're going. She was fascinated by the fact that I planned your runs and controlled your schedule. She said that I can always be sure that you will be at home when I need you, and this will help our relationship, unlike your exes. She always wanted to know what cities I saw. We talked for hours about the places, people, and things I had seen on the road since she was little. When she was a child, I had many night trips that took me back to the morning. I made her breakfast, we ate, and I told her about my trip. He sighed with pleasant memories. "Mariana, I love you, but please stay away from this." She hugged him and said, "I'm not involved in this. I will never drag you into anything. Everything depends on you." I told her straight out that I wouldn't put you two together. He nodded, hugged her tightly, and stopped the show. "I just don't have anything that could put her at the crime scene, Chief. In fact, there is no evidence that anyone was at the crime scene. No forced entry, no finger or toe marks, and no discrepancies in spatter patterns. If it weren't for the identical notes, I would have closed them both as suicides," Jordan told his boss. "Is the ex's alibi hermetically sealed?" asked the commander. "Like a nuclear reactor." "Crap. Did you see Morton's ex-wife as some kind of revenge?" "Yeah, she was at the club on CCTV with her new boyfriend, and her kids were at school." "Crap." 2 years later, Lisa broke her pattern and began dating Alex Green. She promised herself that she would not risk anyone's life by dating men more than once after the suicides. However, she was not celibate. She limited herself to one-night stands with pickup artists from the bar. Getting an STD changed her mind on this matter, so she needed to take a chance and settle down. After a month of dating Alex, she got comfortable. Some would say she was being careless with him. She stopped trying to hide her relationship and began dating him in public. Alex was watching a ball game at home when a gun was put to his head and the trigger was pulled. The gun was placed in his hand and the same note was left again. "The price has been paid in full. This is Jordan," he said, answering his cell phone. "Hello, Detective. This is Detective Hansen from Schaumburg. What can I do for you?" "Boy, do you have an unsolved case that my case may be related to?" "Which one?" "Fully paid suicides. I have one. No way." "Any connections to Lisa Williams?" "Yes, she was his girlfriend." "No way in hell." "Her ex-husband's alibi impeccable?" "Yes, he was passing through Rockford at that moment," Hansen answered. "Where was she?" "Home alone. The security system provided her with an alibi last time and we couldn't break it. Is it the same this time?" "This time she ordered Chinese food from her home phone and the food arrived within 30 minutes. The shooting happened during that window of time, according to a neighbor who called 911. From her house to the deceased's apartment is a 23-minute drive each way and a 3-floor walk to the top. It's close, but we don't see how she could have done it in that time window." "I agree, damn it. Let's get together tomorrow and compare the files." "Fine." Again, all the alibis were inviolable and there were no new suspects. The cases remained unsolved. Steve and Mariana sat in the Great Hall watching Johnny as he walked across the stage to receive his bachelor's degree. Steve beamed with pride and had to wipe away the tear that threatened to roll down his cheek. Mariana squeezed his hand tightly and kissed it. After the ceremony, they went out to their car, and Mariana asked him, "Honey, you love her so much. Please call her." "No, she made her choice when she sided with her mother and not me. She only regretted it when she felt bad about what her mother did to me. I needed her to be on my side. I was right, but she didn't believe me and opened the door for her mother to take my life out from under me." Do you know that there are some old friends of mine who still believe that I molested Johnny and got away with it? Mariana nodded. No, she made her choice, and we all have to live with it, he finished. Mariana frowned at his stubbornness, grabbed his hand and said, Were you as stubborn before the divorce? No, not even close. 5 years later, Lisa and Johnny sat in the front row of the funeral home's memorial room. It was a large turnout for Steve Williams' wake and funeral procession. Steve died of pancreatic cancer 4 weeks after he walked Johnny down the aisle at her wedding. He had a few new friends and colleagues who appeared, but he did not regain a large network of friends after the divorce. Most of his old friends, neighbors, and colleagues came to pay their respects to a good man they knew and had lost touch with over the years. His girlfriend, Mariana, was there. They never got married. She tried very hard not to spit on Lisa for the pain she caused her man. His best friend, Lou DeMarco, regaled Johnny with stories about the last years of her father's life. He filled her heart with stories she would never have known. It was Mariana who finally convinced him to listen to Johnny and make peace with her when he was given a terminal diagnosis. He spent years throwing away letters, deleting emails, and ignoring calls. Their reunion was perfectly timed, as he and Mariana knew these were his last months. Johnny actually rescheduled her wedding day, which cost her a fortune due to increased fees for urgent work, but she got her deepest wish. Her dad gave her to her husband. Their tearful reunion and walk down the aisle gave Steve one last peace of mind before he lost his final battle. The last words he spoke were his thanks to Mariana for returning Johnny to him and his apology for never marrying her. She understood and never pushed him towards marriage. They were already happy. Mariana told Johnny how he always missed her and regretted not contacting her years ago. Her mother asked about it, and Johnny told her about some of the moments of their reconciliation. He said he was at my graduation in the back rows, away from anyone who might recognize him. It's true, Mariana confirmed. I was with him. He said he followed your career as you rose through the ranks and became a detective in Streamwood. He was so proud of you. He kept clippings from the Herald. You were the youngest person to ever become a detective there. He liked it when they said you had a knack for criminology, and later when the newspaper called you a crime scene expert. He almost cried, Mariana said. He said it was because of all that stuff you guys watched together when you were little. He hoped that you would get to Chicago or some other big city and have more important things to do. Johnny smiled through most of the wake, listening to stories about her father's life after the divorce. She was happy to finally meet Mariana, whom she still spoke to from time to time. His new life seemed as good as it could be. He died a happy man. She said her last prayer after the funeral and thanked God that he had finally found peace. Lisa tried to reconnect with Johnny throughout the wake and funeral. She ruined everything at the after-service lunch when she made the wrong comment at the wrong time. They were sitting alone after everyone had left when Lisa said, "Johnny, I finally found peace." "What are you talking about, Mom?" "I haven't been able to have a relationship for the past few years out of fear that your father would kill them." Johnny couldn't believe her ears. "He was acquitted by the police, you worthless piece of crap. But now you're happy that he left so you could have some fun? I hoped you had changed, but now I hope you rot in hell." Lisa winced. "You don't understand." Johnny cut her off and said, "The next time I see you, Mom, is when we get your fat ass in the ground." "No, Johnny, please understand," she interrupted again, saying, "Goodbye, Mom. Good luck in your sex life." This was the last time she spoke to her mother. 10 months later, Lisa was having dinner with her boyfriend, Charlie Heron, at an expensive steakhouse when Charlie became serious. "Lisa, these last 8 months have been so wonderful for me." Squeezing his hand, she said, "For me too, Charlie. I wasn't sure I'd ever love again, but we found each other." "Lisa, I love you. Will you marry me?" Lisa took a deep breath and said, "Yes, yes, I will marry you." At that moment, she thought, "Hez dead. I have nothing to worry about." A week later, Charlie sat on his back porch thinking about his upcoming wedding and Lisa moving in with him. He took a deep drag from his Cuban Montecristo No. 2 cigar and exhaled the smoke. When he sighed contentedly, the gun was put to his temple and the trigger was pulled. A pistol was placed in his hand, a cigar was placed in an ashtray, and a note was left under a heavy ashtray on the table. The price has been paid in full. Lisa hung up after speaking with Detective Jordan. Her face was wet with tears after the emotional conversation. She went up to the bathroom and grabbed a bottle of sleeping pills. She didn't need it for a while, but she always kept it handy. She walked to her mailbox, placed an envelope in it, and raised the flag so the mailman knew there was outgoing mail. She lay down on the bed and thought about her wedding to Mike and what a beautiful day it had been. She thought about Johnny and how proud she was of her career. She thought about family vacations and trips to the park. She regretted never having met Richard Morton and ruining her own life. Finally, she prayed to see Mike soon. She placed the note on her chest as she fell asleep for the last time. Her note read, "My price has been paid in full." Johnny entered the house with mail and a bag of groceries. She put everything back in place, hung her keys on the hook, and kicked off her shoes. Her husband, Blake, wouldn't get home until almost midnight as he was working his second shift as a cop, so she could enjoy the quiet of the house. She opened a bottle of California Cabernet and poured a glass full. After taking a sip, she walked over to the pile of mail and saw a letter. "Holy crap," she screamed when she read the sender's name, Lisa Williams. She tore it open and read her mother's last message to her. Falling into a chair, she tearfully read what her mother's suicide really meant. "Wow, Mom, wow," she said to the empty house. She took her mobile phone and called Jordan. "Detective Jordan, this is Johnny Parker, daughter of Mike and Lisa Williams. Hello, young lady. Sorry to hear about your mother's suicide. Thank you. At least you don't have to investigate." "Yes, what can I do for you, Johnny?" "I received a letter in the mail from my mother. This is a confession." "What?" he shouted into the phone. "This is a confession of all the suicides that were actually murders. Obviously, she was crazy. I cannot believe this. Jesus Christ." "Okay, come and meet me at my site as soon as you can. I'm on the road." She took the first page, set it on fire, placed it in the fireplace, and made sure it was completely burned. The letter said, "My dear Johnny, I give you this last gift of my repentance. Whether you believe it or not, I love you with all my heart, and I apologize for all the pain I caused you. It wasn't intentional, and hurting you and your father was the worst thing I've ever done. I knew it had to be you when Charlie was killed, and I accept my punishment. I'm sorry that I made you punish me in this way, and I hope that you can now live the rest of your life without the pain of my betrayal of you and your father. Destroy this page and give page 2 to the police. Page 2 is my confession to them. I take full responsibility for everything. It's all my fault, and I can never bring back your lost years without your father and your pain, because he believed you were guilty of betraying him. There have been so many deaths because of me, and it must stop. Maybe this will make up for your guilt and you can finally forgive me and find peace. Please tell my future grandchildren stories of good times, not stories of how I ruined our lives. I pray that you and Blake have a long and happy marriage. Never fall for the bait when someone tries to take you away from them. I love you with all my heart. Mother, please reach out to someone and get the help you desperately need." The typed page sounded like this. "Johnny, by the time you receive this, I will already be dead by my own hand. I can't stand the guilt anymore. I killed all these men, my lovers. They all had to pay a price for taking me from your father. I always belonged to him. Maybe now I can join him again. May the Lord forgive me. I will always love you, and I'm sorry I ruined our life. Before Richard, we truly had an ideal family. Mother." Johnny walked over to Detective Jordan's desk and after exchanging greetings sat down in the chair he offered. After reading the letter, he said, "Lord Johnny, forgive me for suspecting you. Yes, I just can't believe it. She must have really gone crazy years ago when I stopped talking to her after what she did to my father. I can't believe she kept dating just to kill them. God, I just don't understand this. In a way, it makes sense that it was her for a couple of murders. Her alibi was unimportant. We just couldn't find her at the crime scene, and frankly, we didn't have enough good evidence. I always felt it was your father or Morton's ex-wife, but we couldn't ruin their alibis either. Well, I'm glad it's all over. Murders, her pain, my suffering. Be careful. Take care, detective, you too. Johnny walked out of the police station with a smile a mile wide and shook her head. She stopped, opened the car door, looked at the sky and said, "Thank you, Mom. I hope you find Daddy wherever you are." Thanks for tuning in to hear this unbelievable story of betrayal and shocking twists. If you were in Mike's shoes, how would you have handled Lisa's deceit and the chaos that followed? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next jaw-dropping story. Until next time, stay vigilant and take care.